I used to think there would be time. Time to sit them down. Time to tell them who I was before I became their parent. Time to explain the choices I made and the mistakes I carried quietly. But time has a way of moving faster when you stay silent. If you love your mother, please subscribe my channel and like the video. When my children were small, they asked questions about everything. Why the sky changed colors at sunset. Why some people smiled more than others. Why I worked so much. I answered the easy ones. But when they asked about my life before them, I kept things simple. Too simple. I told them I grew up normal. That things were fine. That nothing worth mentioning happened before I became their mother. What I didn't say was that once, I was someone else entirely. Before responsibilities. Before routines. Before I learned how to swallow words instead of speaking them. When I was young, I dreamed loudly. I wanted to travel. I wanted to write. I wanted to live somewhere unfamiliar and start over more than once. I wanted a life that felt wide. But I grew up in a house where dreams were considered dangerous. Where stability mattered more than happiness. Where silence kept peace. My parents were not unkind. They were careful. Careful with money. Careful with emotions. Careful with expectations. They taught me how to survive, not how to hope. So when I fell in love young, it felt like an escape. He was steady, predictable, kind in quiet ways. He didn't ask me about my dreams, and I didn't tell him. I told myself love didn't need explanations, that dreams could wait. They always seem like they can. Marriage came quickly. Children followed soon after. And just like that, my life filled up. Not badly, just fully. There were lunches to pack, shoes to tie, homework to check. There were nights I fell into bed exhausted, promising myself I would think about me tomorrow. Tomorrow kept moving. As my children grew, I became good at listening to their stories. School dramas, friendships, first heartbreaks. I sat on the edge of their beds and told them it would be okay. But when they asked, "What were you like at my age?" I smiled and said, "Oh, not very interesting." That wasn't true. I was afraid. Afraid that if I told them about the risks I never took, they would see regret in my eyes. Afraid they would ask why I didn't try harder. Afraid they would learn to settle the way I did. So I stayed quiet. I told myself I was protecting them. But silence has a way of teaching lessons you never intended. They grew into cautious people. Thoughtful. Responsible. They planned carefully. They hesitated before making choices. They asked permission for things they didn't need permission for. I didn't realize where they learned that. Years passed. One evening, after dinner, my oldest lingered at the table. The dishes were done. The house was quiet. She said, "Do you ever wish you'd lived differently?" The question caught me off guard. I laughed lightly. Said something safe. "I'm happy with my life," I said. That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. She nodded, but I saw something in her eyes, relief and disappointment. That night, I lay awake replaying the question, not because it hurt, because it deserved a real answer. I realized then that my silence hadn't protected my children from regret. It had hidden something important from them. That life doesn't move in straight lines. That people change. That loving your family doesn't erase the parts of you that came before. By the time I gathered the courage to speak, they were already grown, busy, independent, living lives that no longer paused for long conversations. The stories stayed inside me. The nights I cried quietly because I felt invisible. The notebook of poems I stopped writing in. The job offer I turned down because it felt unsafe. I thought telling them now would feel like complaining, so I didn't. Then one day, my youngest called me. She sounded unsure. I don't know if I should take this opportunity, she said. It feels risky. I almost gave her the careful answer, the one I had learned. Instead, something shifted. I told her the truth. I told her about the things I never tried, about the fear that guided my choices, about how love and responsibility can coexist with regret. I told her I didn't want her to be fearless. I wanted her to be honest. There was a long pause on the line. Then she said, I wish you had told me this sooner. I did too. I see now that stories are not just memories. They are maps. When we don't share them, others walk without direction. If I could go back, I would sit my children down when they were younger. I would tell them that being careful kept me safe, but it also kept me small. That choosing stability was not wrong, but it came with a cost. I would tell them that it's okay to want more than what feels reasonable, because silence doesn't just hide pain, it hides wisdom. And if you're listening now, holding parts of yourself away from the people you love, thinking it's too late, or unnecessary, or selfish, it's not. Your story doesn't end when you become someone else to others. It continues. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is finally speak.